Tell me something, viewer. How far would you go for a forbidden love? Jenni is married to Taylor, a powerful mafia boss. In everyone's eyes, she lives a luxurious and respectable marriage. But the truth is different. Jenni is madly in love with Maicon, the raw man, her own husband's brother. Little does Taylor know that as she prepares to return from her trip, his wife was, last night, burning with desire in his brother's bed. Worse still, it was Jenni who took the initiative, throwing her body against Maicon and investing heavily in seduction to experience a fiery night that should never have happened. Now, she knows she's crossed a line of no return. The danger lies not only in the forbidden love, but in the silent war that could erupt when Taylor discovers he's been betrayed within his own family. Tell me something. How far would you go for a forbidden love? Jenni is married to Taylor, the powerful leader of the mafia, a man feared by enemies and admired by allies. To everyone around her, she's the perfect wife of a cold and calculating boss, living in a world of luxury, security, and power. But inside her heart, a storm grows stronger every day. The source of that storm has a name, Maicon, Taylor's younger brother. The man she should see as family has become the dangerous obsession she cannot escape. For years, Jenni tried to ignore the way her eyes lingered on Maicon, the way her pulse raced whenever he entered a room. But loneliness changes a woman. Taylor's coldness, his distance, and his lack of affection left her empty, desperate to feel alive again. Maicon, with his softer nature and the way he looked at her without fear, became the flame she could not resist. Last night was the breaking point. Jenni didn't just fall into temptation, she ran into it. When Taylor was away on another trip, she crossed the invisible line between desire and betrayal. It was Jenni who leaned closer, who whispered words that left no room for doubt, who pressed her lips against Maicon until he could no longer resist. Their bodies gave in to the fire they had denied for so long. That night, the silence of the mansion was broken by sighs that should never have existed. Now, morning light creeps through the curtains, but the heat of that night still lingers on Jenni's skin. She moves through the house as if nothing happened, yet every glance at the empty seat where Taylor usually sits reminds her of the risk she took. Fear should make her stop, but it doesn't. Instead, it fuels her, because nothing had ever made her feel so desired, so alive, so dangerously free. Her heart beats faster at the thought of what they did, at the thought of what might come next. But danger never sleeps. Taylor is returning sooner than expected. He believes his home, his marriage, and his brother are all loyal to him. He has no idea that his perfect world is already crumbling, poisoned by betrayal in his own bed. And Jenni, still trembling from the memory of Maicon's touch, doesn't realize that last night was not just a mistake. It was the beginning of the most dangerous game she will ever play.
The sound of the jet engines roared in the distance. Taylor was returning. For everyone in the city, that meant the streets would be quieter, businesses would fall in line, and enemies would hide. For Jenni, however, it meant fear and guilt. She walked around the mansion, feeling every step echo like a reminder of her betrayal. The bed sheets had been changed, the perfume washed from her skin, but nothing could erase what had been done. Nothing could erase Maicon's eyes devouring her soul. Maicon tried to act normal. He spent the morning training in the gym, fists pounding the punching bag as if trying to silence the guilt inside him. But the truth is, every punch only made Jenni's image come back stronger. He remembered her lips, her whispers, the desperate way she had clung to him. Maicon was a man who had fought wars in the shadows of the mafia, but he had never felt so defeated by something as simple and powerful as desire. When Taylor arrived at the mansion, the atmosphere shifted instantly. His presence was like a storm, cold, strong, and commanding respect without saying a word. He embraced Jenni with a possessive kiss, as if marking territory, and then turned to his brother with a calculating gaze. "Maicon," he said, in his deep, heavy tone, "good to see you." On the surface, everything looked normal, but beneath that facade, the tension crackled like electricity, invisible, yet ready to explode. Jenni forced a smile, trying to act like the perfect wife, but her heart hammered in her chest. Every word Taylor spoke felt like an interrogation, every touch like a search for clues. She wondered if he could smell the betrayal on her skin, if he could see the hunger still flickering in her eyes when she glanced at Maicon. She tried to control resolve, but the memory of last night was a fire she could not extinguish. And fire always leaves traces. At dinner, Taylor spoke of business, enemies, and alliances, but Jenni could barely hear him. All she noticed was the weight of Maicon's stare across the table, burning into her soul. It was a silent confession, a reminder that what happened between them could never truly be hidden. And as Taylor raised his glass in a toast, Jenni realized with terror the man she had betrayed was sitting right there, clueless, while the forbidden desire between her and Maicon only grew stronger with every passing second.
Jenni knew the real danger wasn't the mafia, nor the enemies stalking Taylor. The real danger was sitting across the table, staring at her silently. Maicon didn't need words. His eyes said it all. Every time she looked away, he persisted, as if reminding her of last night. Jenni's heart pounded so hard she feared Taylor would notice, but her husband, blinded by trust, continued to talk business. The tension was unbearable. Jenni trembled as she held her wine glass, feeling the heat rise through her body. Maicon crossed his arms, a half smile on his lips, as if testing her limits. It was a silent game, a forbidden duel in front of Taylor. And the worst part was, Jenni didn't want to win. She wanted to lose. She wanted Maicon's gaze to devour her, until nothing remained but the truth hidden between them. Taylor sensed something. Small, but enough to cast a shadow across the table. He frowned, noticing the haste with which Jenni lowered her eyes. "Is everything okay, honey?" he asked, in a cool but disguised tone. Jenni swallowed hard and smiled, trying to appear calm. "Just a little tired, love." Maicon didn't look away. He held her gaze, as if defying fate, as if to say, "You can't escape me." When dinner ended, Taylor received a call and stepped away to answer it. It was enough for the silence between Jenni and Maicon to become palpable. The air felt heavy, thick with desire and guilt. She breathed quickly, struggling not to lose control. He leaned a little closer, resting his arm on the table, and murmured, almost inaudibly, "I can't forget." Those 3 words tore at her soul. Jenni stood up quickly, trying to escape the temptation. She hurried up the stairs, but she knew she wasn't running away from Maicon. She was running away from herself. In her room, she locked the door and fell on the bed, her body burning. Taylor could return at any moment, and yet all that occupied her thoughts was the forbidden kiss, the burning touch, the gaze that mercilessly undressed her. She was lost, and the eye contact had only just begun. Taylor entered the room late at night, tired from the call he'd received. He found Jenni lying down, pretending to be asleep. He watched her for a few seconds, sensing something strange in the air. There was a strong, sweet, overly lingering scent. His instinct, trained in the mafia, always detected when something was off. But, in love with his wife, he tried to push the thought away. Still, an unease began to grow within him. Jenni, her heart racing, felt the weight of Taylor's gaze on her. She pretended to breathe slowly, controlling every movement so as not to be discovered. The memory of Maicon's voice still echoed in her mind. "I can't forget." It gave her chills, and the fear of Taylor noticing almost suffocated her. The silence in the room became a prison, until he lay down beside her, holding her as always, but this time the touch didn't bring comfort. It brought guilt. The next morning, Taylor watched her silently as they drank coffee. There was something in Jenni's eyes, a different, restless glint. He tried to make conversation, but she seemed distracted, distant, as if she were living somewhere else. It was then that Taylor shifted his gaze to her brother, who entered the kitchen with an enigmatic smile. The atmosphere grew heavy. Maicon's glance toward Jenni was brief, but for Taylor it was enough to arouse a shadow of suspicion. "Did you sleep well, sister-in-law?" Maicon asked in a low, almost provocative tone. Jenni choked lightly on her coffee, blushing helplessly. Taylor clenched his fists under the table, unsure what irritated him more, his brother's boldness or his wife's nervous demeanor. The tension was clear, but no one dared break the silence. It was at that moment that Taylor realized something was out of control in his own home. Jenni tried to hide it, getting up to tidy the kitchen, but her hands were shaking. She knew Taylor wasn't stupid. She knew it wouldn't take long for her husband to realize the truth. And yet, as she walked through the door, her body reacted as Maicon let out a half-smile, full of memory and promise. It was a dangerous game, and every detail could be the beginning of a fall from grace.
Jenni woke up with her heart pounding, still feeling the fire Maicon had ignited inside her. The bed smelled of betrayal, the sheets a silent witness of the forbidden night they had shared. She pressed her face against the pillow, half in shame and half in longing, her body betraying her with the memory of his touch. For a moment, she almost wished time could stop there, where passion had no consequences. But reality always knocks harder in the morning, especially when you live under the same roof as danger, and danger had Taylor's name written all over it. When Taylor returned from his trip, Jenni forced herself into her role as the perfect wife. She greeted him with a warm smile, her arms wrapping around him like nothing had changed, though everything had. Taylor's lips brushed her cheek with the coldness of a stranger, his embrace mechanical, void of affection. She had grown used to his indifference, but now, after tasting passion, his distance felt unbearable. She studied his eyes carefully, afraid they might already know what she had done. Yet his face showed no suspicion, just the same tired cruelty she had endured for years. Maicon sat at the dinner table, avoiding her gaze, as if one look would expose the sin they shared. His silence screamed louder than words, his shoulders tense, his jaw clenched, his hands restless against the glass of wine. Jenni tried to act normal, laughing faintly at Taylor's lifeless conversation, but every second felt like a performance. Their stolen night was alive in her skin, and she feared Taylor could smell it, taste it, read it in the air around them. Each climp of cutlery echoed like a warning bell inside her head. Guilt was supposed to suffocate her, but instead it burned as desire. That night, Jenni lay beside her husband, the man she once thought she loved, feeling the painful emptiness of his presence. Taylor turned his back to her, as usual, leaving her cold and abandoned in a bed that should have been her sanctuary. She stared at the ceiling, her body restless, craving warmth that her husband would never give. Her mind replayed Maicon's whispers, his breath against her ear, the way he had touched her like no one ever had. Shame and the hunger clashed inside her chest until she could barely breathe. And still, she knew she would do it again. Taylor's eyes, however, were sharper than she imagined. He watched her more closely in the days that followed, though he disguised it with his usual silence. He noticed the way Jenni seemed distracted, how her laughter sounded forced, how her eyes avoided Maicon's too often. Inside, suspicion was growing like poison, though he gave no sign of it. Jenni, blinded by her hunger, didn't realize the danger building in her own home. What she thought was a secret passion was already becoming a deadly game, and Taylor had just begun to play.
Jenni couldn't think of anything but Maicon. Every memory of his hands, his touch, the heat of his body burning against hers consumed her. She tried to focus on her tasks, but everything felt empty and meaningless. The desire not only persisted, it grew stronger by the second. She found herself imagining the forbidden moments, reliving every kiss, every whisper, every bold gesture from last night. And the more she tried to resist, the more intense the need she felt. Maicon couldn't ignore what had happened either. Every time Jenni passed by him, his body reacted involuntarily, their eyes meeting silently, sharing secrets that shouldn't exist. He tried to keep his distance, but the temptation was overwhelming. The danger only heightened the intensity of every gesture, every look, every breath. They knew Taylor would notice any suspicious movement, but the adrenaline of the forgotten was irresistible. It was a deadly game of desire that they both knew they couldn't win. Meanwhile, Taylor began to notice small changes. The different perfume, the way Jenni looked away, Maicon's discreet gestures. He said nothing, but his mind calculated every detail, searching for signs of betrayal. His silence was more threatening than any shout, and Jenni felt the weight of his invisible eyes even when he was busy with business. Every touch between her and Maicon was now more dangerous, fraught with knowledge that they could be discovered at any moment. Jenni, unable to contain herself, began to tease Maicon with small gestures, suppressed laughs, and lingering glances. Each movement was calculated, a silent invitation to repeat what they had already experienced. Maicon resisted for a moment, but he couldn't deny the attraction growing between them. Jenni's heart beat fast with each almost casual touch, each unexpected proximity. The fear of discovery only made everything more exciting, more dangerous, more impossible to ignore. The forbidden desire was about to boil over again. That night, as the house fell silent, Jenni and Maicon found themselves alone in the kitchen. The tension between them exploded in quick gestures and fiery whispers. A stolen kiss, trembling hands, ragged breaths. It was the same fire as before, impossible to extinguish. But this time, the danger seemed even closer, as if Taylor could appear at any moment. And as they walked away, hearts racing, Jenni knew she was playing with fire, and that the next mistake could destroy everything. Taylor watched Jenni from afar, sitting in the living room, feigning attention to the papers scattered on the table. Her every gesture, every suppressed laugh, every glance she glanced at Maicon heightened the pan of distrust in his chest. He didn't need to say anything, not yet. His instinct was right. Something was wrong. The heavy atmosphere in the house became almost palpable, and the silence seemed to scream secrets no one dared speak. Taylor simply breathed deeply, calculating every detail, every movement, ready to act at the right moment. Maicon struggled to maintain his composure. He felt guilt crawling through his veins, but the attraction to Jenni was stronger than any sense of loyalty. Every touch, every closeness, every tense gesture heightened a forbidden flame between them. He knew he was risking everything: his brother's trust, his family's stability, his own position within the mafia. But in that moment, no consequence seemed more important than Jenni in his arms, wanting him like never before. During dinner, Taylor tested its limits without saying a word. He watched Jenni's every movement, every laugh, every glance. He sensed that something had changed, that she was hiding something from him. Maicon stood beside her, trying to appear normal, but the gleam in his eyes betrayed the forbidden attraction they shared. Taylor breathed slowly, letting the silence speak, letting the signs grow before his watchful eyes. The tension was almost unbearable, fraught with danger and the promise of imminent disaster. Late at night, as everyone retired to their rooms, Jenni found Maicon alone in the library. The silence between them was heavy with memories and unresolved desires. They approached slowly, bodies close, breathing fast, hearts beating in sync. They knew Taylor could appear at any moment, but the risk was irresistible. It was impossible to deny what they felt, impossible to walk away. And in that moment, they both understood they were about to cross a line that could destroy everything.
Jenni moved around the house as if dancing on a tightrope, each step calculated, each gesture charged with sensuality and danger. She wanted to challenge Maicon, to provoke his desire, but she also needed to escape her husband's attention. Every accidental touch from Maicon, every restrained smile, fueled the forbidden flame burning within her. She knew Taylor was watching, that every detail could be interpreted as betrayal. And yet she couldn't contain herself, craving danger, feeling alive like never before. Maicon tried to control himself, but Jenni's closeness was unbearable. He felt guilt, fear, and desire in equal intensity, every emotion mingling in a whirlwind impossible to ignore. Every time their bodies came closer, even for seconds, the tension grew. Taylor's gaze, still silent, made the game more dangerous, more exciting. They knew any misstep could be fatal, but the attraction consumed them. Last night hadn't been enough. The desire couldn't be contained. Taylor finally spoke, her voice low, firm, without losing control. "Jenni, we need to talk later." He didn't say what, but every word carried a threat. She swallowed hard, knowing he already suspected something, but still had no proof. Maicon looked away, feeling the tension grow. The silence that followed was more powerful than any accusation. Taylor knew how to play, how to make fear grow before acting. Later, in the office, Taylor closed the door and studied Jenni coolly. "There's something you need to tell me." Jenni's heart raced, but she maintained her outward calm, merely taking a deep breath. Maicon, outside, knew this was a decisive moment, but he couldn't interfere. The tension in the air was electric, ready to explode. Jenni realized the web of desire and betrayal had become a trap, and all three of them knew nothing would ever be the same again.
Taylor began to notice the small details that had previously gone unnoticed, the distinctive scent in Jenni's hair, the way she moved when Maicon was near, the restrained smiles that hid secrets. Every gesture seemed to carry a silent message he didn't need to decipher. Suspicion grew within him like a fire, burning away every remaining layer of trust. Jenni tried to act normal, but the tension between them became unbearable. Maicon, sensing Taylor's attention, began to feel increasingly pressured. The sense of imminent danger hung over the house like a dark cloud. In the kitchen, as she prepared dinner, Jenni felt Taylor's gaze pierce her like a blade. Her heart raced, her body responding involuntarily to fear and the memory of that forbidden night. Maicon entered, offering help, but The casual touch of his hand sent shivers through Jenni's body. Taylor noticed the movement and frowned, the silence more menacing than any accusation. Every innocent gesture now carried an electric tension, a dangerous dance between desire, betrayal, and suspicion. Neither of them could have predicted where that night would take them. Later, Taylor invited Maicon to speak privately. The tension in the air was palpable, every word charged with suspicion. "Do you have something to tell me?" Taylor asked, his tone low but firm. Maicon swallowed hard, unsure whether to lie or confess. He glanced at Jenni, who watched from afar, her heart racing. The invisible triangle between them seemed ready to shatter at any moment, and they all knew the truth would have devastating consequences. Meanwhile, Jenni walked down the hallway, trying to control her breathing and the panic rising within her. Every step reminded her of what she had done, what she might lose, and the danger she was about to face. She knew Taylor suspected, and the feeling of being on the brink made her body tremble. Maicon, outside, tried to remain calm, but guilt gnawed at him. Neither of them could back down now. Every decision, every look, every gesture could seal their fate. The tension was almost unbearable, charged with desire and threat. Night fell, and the house fell silent, but the storm was about to break. Taylor closed the office, watching Jenni with eyes that now saw right through her. Maicon approached, attempting a semblance of normalcy, but the air was heavy, charged with danger. Everyone knew the truth was about to come out, and no one could escape the consequences. Desire, betrayal, and suspicion were intertwined in an unbreakable knot. And in that moment, everyone felt the next step could change their lives forever.
Taylor returned from his trip earlier than expected, the car cruising down the silent road. He felt a foreboding in his chest that he couldn't explain, something that tightened more and more. Entering the house, everything seemed peaceful, too quiet. But his instincts, trained in the mafia, never fail him. He picked up subtle signs, as if the air were heavy, laden with secrets. Each step toward the bedroom made his heart race, mixing anger and disbelief. He pushed the door open slowly, never imagining what he would find. The shock was instantaneous. Jenni and Maicon together in bed, bodies entwined, the scene from last night multiplied in intensity and betrayal. Taylor froze, eyes wide, taking deep breaths to keep from exploding with rage. Jenni, surprised, tried to cover herself, stammering words that wouldn't come out. Maicon stood up slowly, unsure of what to say, feeling his brother's fury rise like an unstoppable wave. The betrayal was there, naked, impossible to deny, and Taylor's power seemed to radiate throughout the entire room. How could you? Taylor's voice cut through the silence, low, heavy, yet full of menace. Jenni tried to explain, but there weren't enough words to erase what he saw. Maicon tried to defend himself, but felt that any movement would be his end. Taylor advanced, and his every step was like a death sentence. Anger, pain, and humiliation turned into a silent storm ready to explode. The room witness to the betrayal now became the stage for a confrontation no one could avoid. Jenni fell to her knees begging, trying to touch her husband's arm, but Taylor pulled away, every gesture calculated, every breath controlled, but filled with hatred. Maicon retreated, with no way out, feeling the weight of years of envy and forbidden desire transform into a deadly instant. Jenni wept, a mixture of guilt and regret, while the silence became almost unbearable, broken only by Taylor's heady breathing and firm footsteps. Every look exchanged between them carried the certainty that life would never be the same. Shock, anger, and tragedy mingled in an instant, frozen and done. Taylor, undeterred, saw the betrayal she had suspected, but now it was real, concrete, impossible to ignore. Maicon knew there was no escape, that this would be his end. Jenni, caught between love, Desire and fear understood that all was lost, and as Taylor approached, their fates were about to be sealed, leaving only one certainty. Nothing, not passion, not desire, could save what had been destroyed.